Our world can look normal, but the way life works is already changing our lives. Most people feel it before they can explain it, before hearing the news or a smart device sends an alert. It shows up as quiet pressure in everyday routines, when money doesn't go as far as it used to, and familiar habits become harder to maintain. This video is about invisible impacts that silently reshape our lives. At first, life still feels familiar. People go to work, run errands, and move through their normal routines. And a small moment interrupts that flow. A receipt reveals that something has unexpectedly changed. Prices have gone up, and the final bill is higher than before. It's not luxury or excess purchases, just necessities costing more than they used to. The budgeted math no longer works the way it once did. Rising costs are now part of daily life, and paying more has become unavoidable. In places where people expect things to feel normal, the shift becomes undeniable. Grocery aisles look the same, shelves are still stocked, and routines continue as usual until the cart tells a different story. Items add up faster than expected. Everyday staples cost more than they used to, and budgets stretch thinner with each trip. Prices are rising, fewer choices feel affordable, and shopping routines quietly adjust. What once felt manageable now requires hesitation, compromise, and silent calculation. There's no luxury here, no extras, just everyday food, quietly demanding more than it did before. The change doesn't announce itself with alarms or headlines. It's felt in the pause before putting an item back on the shelf, in the mental math no one else sees, and in the growing awareness that even necessities now come with trade-offs. For many people, this is how the change shows up. Sitting at the same table, paying the same bills they've paid their entire lives, only now there's not enough money to cover them. Numbers are checked again and again, not for accuracy, but in search of money that isn't there. The bill-paying routine continues, but the effort required to keep up grows heavier, as managing daily life slowly turns into a constant strain just to stay afloat. For some people, the change in everyday life becomes impossible to ignore. A decision is made elsewhere, and an AI-driven digital screen replaces a paycheck. Income stops without warning, while bills continue. Routines collapse, plans shrink, and days are spent cutting back, delaying plans, and trying to live with less. Life doesn't fall apart all at once. It narrows quietly as people adjust to a reality that has already moved on. What feels personal on the surface is often shaped far from view. While daily life unfolds at checkout counters, office desks, and kitchen table, systems beyond view are watching, measuring, and tracking patterns in real time. All movement becomes data, and behavior is turned into signals that shape outcomes. Decisions and consequences are made quietly, without consent from the lives they affect. By the time change reaches the individual, it no longer feels like a choice. It feels like the way things are. Far from everyday life, decisions begin as abstractions. Charts replace faces. Graphs summarize millions of individual realities into clean shapes and percentages. What can't be measured is ignored, and what can be measured becomes decisive. In this space, impact is reduced to numbers, and consequences are framed as outcomes rather than human costs. Once reduced to data, those numbers are discussed, debated, and approved. Decisions are made in rooms like this, calm, professional, and detached from the lives they reshape. No one here sees the checkout line, the empty bank balance, or the bill left unpaid. Yet the conclusions reached at this table quietly determine what others will have to live with next. What feels distant and abstract is already active. Global systems process billions of signals at once, tracking movement, consumption, risk, and behavior across borders in real time. From this height, lives are reduced to patterns, clusters of numbers that rise, fall, and shift without context. What matters here isn't who people are, but how they register. Those signals don't disappear. They move into physical system servers, networks, automated processes built to run continuously and without pause. Data is stored, compared, ranked, and filtered. Efficiency replaces judgment. Speed replaces reflection. Once encoded, these systems don't ask why, only whether the inputs meet the required thresholds. And somewhere along the chain, humans remain monitoring dashboards, responding to alerts, adjusting parameters. Not to individual lives, but to outputs. Decisions are framed as technical necessities, not moral choices. They move forward already justified, already processed, already decided. By the time consequences reach the surface, life is already in motion. Schedules fill, routes repeat, and days move forward without pause, as if nothing has changed. Changes are not announced, but options simply begin fading away. Paths are being set, and momentum carries life forward, whether it still feels like a choice or not. In crowded spaces, that feeling deepens. People move together, wait together, and comply together, each person focused on their own concerns while being shaped by the same invisible pressures. Time, access, and opportunity begin to feel interchangeable, processed in bulk, until individuality fades into the background and life starts to feel managed rather than lived. And eventually, when the motion slows, the realization settles in, not through an alert or an explanation, but in quiet moments alone, when the weight of outcomes becomes personal again. The decision is already behind you, the system long finished with its work, and what remains is the awareness that something important changed without announcement, without consent, and long before it was fully understood. At some point, you realize you're no longer choosing the pace, you're keeping up with it. But because standing still no longer feels like an option, access becomes routine. Approval is silent. Doors open or stay closed without explanation, and you adjust instinctively, learning the rules without ever being taught them, shaping your life around systems that never pause to notice who is adapting. And later, away from the noise of the day, the reality sets in. Not through a warning or an alert from a digital device, but in quiet moments, when the bill is due, the paycheck is smaller, or the choices you used to have are no longer there. You realize decisions were made long before you felt them, and living with the outcome is not the same as choosing it. If this felt familiar, you're not alone. Like, comment, and subscribe for more stories about the invisible forces shaping everyday life.